So Marvel's first family finally gets the MCU treatment in the Fantastic Four First Steps. And the result is a retro-futuristic spectacle that's equal parts heartfelt and high concept. But does it live up to the legacy of its comic book roots? Or just surf the nostalgia wave? Let's break it down. Stay tuned for the video.
Anachronic.
Hi comic book fans, and welcome to Anachronic Comics. Long-term watchers of this channel know that as a kid I was a big Marvel fan, especially Lee and Kirby's work. I still have the Fantastic Four comics I bought as a kid and have shown them off in a series I call The Comics My Mom Let Me Keep. So when I first heard that the MCU was coming up with a new Fantastic Four movie set in the 1960s, I was beside myself with glee. After all, that time frame was my Fantastic Four. Was my gleefulness rewarded? Well, kind of. Here are some real positives that I saw. This was no origin story. No origin story fatigue here. The film skips the usual setup and drops us into Earth 828 with the Fantastic Four already beloved icons. The aesthetic is pure comic book exuberance. Here, Reed and Sue aren't fumbling scientists. They're revered legends navigating existential stakes. The beginning, showing the FF's challenges they had in their first few issues, was a real joy to me. Earth 828 is a visual feast. Think the Jetsons meets 2001: A Space Odyssey. From vinyl space transmissions to flying cars, the production design channels Jack Kirby's aesthetic with loving precision. In fact, the Earth 828 moniker was a play on the King's August 28th birthday. Earth 828 is a stylized fever dream. Think Kirby's lines with Jean Moebius' inspired pastels from Silver Surfer Parable. Reed and Sue's journey into parenthood adds genuine emotional stakes. At the heart is a choice: save their child or sacrifice Earth. A storyline giving the characters a weight beyond superpowers. Pascal and Kirby delivered layered performances that humanized the spectacle. The dilemma: give up their newborn to Galactus or risk planetary annihilation. It's surprisingly intimate for a superhero blockbuster. Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm is fierce, maternal, and emotionally grounded. In my view, she gives the best performance of the four. Pedro Pascal brings gravitas to Reed Richards, balancing intellect with vulnerability. Joseph Quinn and Eban Moss-Backrack inject some warmth and humor as Johnny and Ben, but their success is muted because their arcs are less developed. Julia Garner's Shalla-Bal is haunting and majestic, while Ralph Ineson's Galactus is a cosmic force of dread. Their presence elevates the stakes and adds mythic weight to the narrative. Now, those positives, what they are, made the movie watchable, but the negatives. The film's first half is rich with character moments and world building, but the second half leans heavily on CGI spectacle. I feel that the emotional threads get lost in the cosmic chaos. Mr. Fantastic's elasticity is barely showcased, and the team's abilities often take a backseat to the plot mechanics. The others have their superhero moments, but other than Sue Storm, who effectively saves her world, the others' superpowers were barely needed. The biggest action set piece involved a spaceship chase, not exactly a showcase for superpowers. Perhaps my biggest negative is the thin character arcs of Ben Grimm, Johnny Storm, and to some extent the Fantastic Four as a family. Ben Grimm in the 1960s comics is a tortured soul. I always remember him lamenting to Johnny why it was he couldn't say "Thingon" when he needed his strength. This undercurrent helped make him more human than those around him. In the movie, Ben's subplot with Rachel, Natasha Lyonne, feels undercooked, and ultimately it was inconsequential. Johnny Storm's emotional depth is hinted at, but not fully explored. We needed more time in this movie to see the reasons why the FF are a family unit. Not enough time is given to this important feature. In the comics, they not only cared for each other, but they also argued, and sometimes they felt hurt by the others, like a real family. Now, the villains. Galactus is imposing, but his motivations feel familiar. Another godlike entity threatening Earth. He echoes familiar cosmic threats. We've seen this god before. Also, as I mentioned below, Galactus appears to be the villain needed to introduce Franklin Richards' importance, nothing more. The manner of his defeat at the hands of Sue and Shalabal is somewhat surprising and, in my view, seemingly contrived. The mom protecting her child finds the reserve power to handle Galactus, and the Herald, who as in the comics is convinced that humanity is worth saving. Julia Garner's Silver Surfer is tragic, a poetic figure rather than a powerhouse. The Silver Surfer's tragic backstory is compelling, but her arc doesn't fully resolve. Now, despite being self-contained, it appears to me that the purpose of this movie, besides simply introducing the FF, was really to set up Avengers Doomsday. This, in my mind, was confirmed by the end credits scene. This movie is significant only because of the birth of Franklin Richards, who is needed to move the MCU story forward. Galactus is nothing more than a conduit to that introduction. This, in my mind, dilutes its standalone impact. Some final thoughts. In the 1960s, the Fantastic Four burst onto the comic book scene as Marvel's pioneering superhero team, embodying a bold new era of storytelling. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1961, the quartet, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, blended cosmic adventure with grounded family dynamics, setting them apart from traditional Caped Crusaders. The stories tackled themes of transformation, alienation, and scientific wonder, while introducing iconic villains as well. The Fantastic Four First Steps is a bold swing, and okay, it's not a miss, maybe it's a double. The film that tries with some success to be earnest, stylized, and emotionally resonant. It's not perfect, and it could have used an additional 20 minutes for some character development and some FF action. I really wanted to love this movie, but I didn't. But it did accomplish its purpose, and I saw it as a tribute to Jack Kirby, and heck, it was a step in the right direction for Marvel's most storied team. I give it a solid C+. Now, whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer, it's worth the ride, especially if you stay for the credits. So, is First Steps a masterpiece or just a warm-up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to see my prior shows showcasing my Fantastic Four comics, click here. Thanks for watching, be well, and I'll see you soon.